Hola. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Prof, for that nice introduction. So I'll be speaking to you on the Tsonga medicinal ethnobotany of South Africa. As you might have heard during this session, South Africa is very culturally diverse. I will make examples. For example, we have the Xhosa people who are found in the Eastern Cape. Also, I just want to add that South Africa, I don't know if this is special or not, but you can tell where a person is from within the country by the language that they speak. For example, the Zulu people are mainly populated in the KwaZulu-Natal province over here, but you can also find some of them in the Mpumalanga provinces. So me, as I'm working on the Tsonga people, they are found in the Limpopo province, which also has the Pedi and the Venda people. However, they're also found in the Mpumalanga provinces. So let me give you a background about the Tsonga people. They are a minority cultural group, only making up about 4.2% of the total population. In 1969, there used to be homelands in South Africa. So the Tsonga were found in the Gazankulu homeland over here, which was made up of the Giyani. Giyani used to be the capital city. Kruger National Park, some of you know it, Tzaneen, Malamlele. So now that South Africa has 9 provinces, the Vatsonga, as I mentioned on my previous slide, are found in the Limpopo and Mpumalanga provinces. In Limpopo, they make up only about 16.6% of the total population and are found in 2 districts, the Vembe district and Mopani district. In the Vembe district, they are found in Collins Chabane. The town where they are normally found is called Malamlele. And then in the Mopani district, they are found in Greater Giyani and Greater Tzaneen. Remember, I mentioned that Greater Giyani used to be the capital city when South Africa used to have homelands. So in the Mpumalanga province, we have one region that is densely populated. It's not dense, it's like 9.6%. So they are found in the Bushbuckridge region. So we obviously, when you do such a study, you have to look at previous background. We found that Lin May, which is this paper, published a paper on the medicinal plants. This was in 1981, by the way, on the ethnobotany, so overall ethnobotany of the Tsonga people, and only about 15 medicinal species were published in this paper. So Beiki over here, I'm not sure if you guys can read, but anyway, so Beiki over here published a paper. It wasn't necessarily on the Tsonga people, but I included it because they mentioned like 3 species that spoke about psychoactive plants that are used by the Tsonga. Get this, 27 years later from Lin May's paper, we find this piece of the species that was on the Tsonga ethnobotany in Bushbuckridge area. And then most recent papers, we have this one by Rankwane, but no medicinal list or uses or anything like that was published. I do have reason to believe that it was linked to the species because if you look at the author, we have Shilubane here, and this PhD thesis was written by Shilubane. Anyway, in 2016, also in Bushbuckridge, we have a paper by Chikarange on the medicinal ethnobotany of the Tsonga people. We see a trend here, right? Bushbuckridge. Okay, and then most recently, 2020, Tsonga medicinal plants on plants used to treat skin infections. At least this one was now in the Limpopo region in Mopani, if you were listening. I did mention Mopani district. So why are we doing this research? Obviously, as you can see, there's only few literature on the Tsonga medicinal ethnobotany, and the one that does exist is focusing on the Bushbuckridge region. And I've shown you 4 regions that have the Tsonga people in South Africa. Us being ethnobotanists, we want to document this and try to, complete as much as we can the Tsonga medicinal ethnobotany. And we also ask ourselves these questions. Now, if they're found in all these 4 regions, do they use the same medicinal plant species for the same purposes? And are the same vernacular names used? And of those species, which ones are widely popular? I'm actually happy that Marlette explained this whole process, so I don't have to explain it. So firstly, we did a literature survey to document all the medicinal plants that was previously recorded, and then because during our interviews, we used what Marlette explained during her talk, the matrix method. So you have to have a flip file, which is used as a primary database for your formal interviews. We had 372 species on the flip file. And then we did formal interviews. Then for quantification, we use the matrix method. And then to find out which species were popular or widely used, we use the species popularity index. As you can see, I gave you examples of how I calculated everything, and you can check out the papers if you are interested. You can even come to me and I'll send them to you, okay? So I used a Rahman similarity index and the homogeneity index, which is very recent, to calculate overlap between the villages that we were comparing. Per region, we looked at one village. So each region had its own village. In Tsanin, which is in the Greater Tsanin district, we looked at Nwamitwa village, Greater Kiani, Dami village, Mhinga in Malamlele. This is our Limpopo study area. And then in Mpumalanga, I surveyed the Ronaldsey village. So the first section of our results shows what has been recorded from previous literature and our current contribution to the Tsonga ethnobotany. Overall, there are 287 species now recorded for the Tsonga medicinal ethnobotany, including data both from literature and our own survey. On the table, you can clearly see which data, you see it's color-coded, which data was recorded from literature, which one was our survey, and then which one was shared between the two. So initially, 155 species were recorded from the literature, and 248 was what we got during our own surveys, and 166 were shared between the two. We have thus contributed a new record of 132 new medicinal species for the Tsonga ethnobotany, 916 medicinal uses, and 363 new vernacular names. The addition of the new medicinal records has advanced the medicinal ethnobotany of the South African Tsonga culture. Furthermore, it shows that this area of study has been inadequately documented. Thus, there is reason to believe that there is, despite even with our recent contribution, there is a wealth of ethnobotanical knowledge that is yet to be recorded for the Tsonga people. Now, I mentioned that we worked on various villages, so the following result is just a comparison of those. In total, we had 22 participants and recorded 248 medicinal species. You can see from this graph the number of participants and the number of medicinal species that we recorded for each village. To determine which species are widely popular, we used the species popularity index value, which was explained previously, of all the villages combined. So for all 22 participants, we could determine which species were popular in the Tsonga culture. You can see the species popularity index value here of all the species. The sesamum species have a species popularity index value of 1, which means that all the participants knew the plant, they had a name for it and had a use for it. The following species are those that have a wide distribution among the Tsonga, all the Tsonga villages. The species popularity index value was now calculated per village, so like 5, 6 participants. These species appear to be popular Tsonga species because they consistently had species popularity index values that were high in all the villages. It is also worth mentioning that these species also had the same vernacular names in all the villages. Unsurprisingly, we saw some of the species on this slide, on this figure, in the previous slide. These can be regarded as truly Tsonga species. These are all the Tsonga species that were used for the same purposes in all of the villages. Let me also add that the species such as your Kigelia africana, Lipia javanica, and Sclerocara pirea are very popular in this room because they've been mentioned, I think, by 3 people already. So they seem to be popular African plant species as well. So your sesamum species, Momotica balsaminia, they all have the same medicinal uses in all of the 4 villages combined. So the fact that these species have the same vernacular names and uses in the villages indicate that there might have been a sharing or a transfer of knowledge from generation to generation, and might have existed a transfer of knowledge between the Tsonga villages. Now, this is just an example of the medicinal uses that are shared by all the Tsonga villages. You can see that these are normal day-to-day primary healthcare ailments. To quantify the medicinal species, to show which ones are, to determine the level of similarity or dissimilarity, we use the homogeneity index value. And then if we use a benchmark of 50%, like 0.5, and then anything less than 0.5 will be dissimilarity, and anything greater than that will show similarity. If we look at this table, we see dissimilarity between the villages. For the number of medicinal species shared or combined is less than 10%. Even the highest number of medicinal species shared is only 0.47, which is for Mhinga and Nwamitwa villages and Dambi and Nwamitwa village. The rest of the combinations of the villages for medicinal uses shared or number of vernacular names is low. It goes without saying that these villages are different, even though they are the same cultural group. To further illustrate the differences, we use the Rahman similarity index to calculate the overlap between the Tsonga villages. We see the same trend. We see the same trend with the homogeneity index value, where Mhinga and Nwamitwa is there's little overlap between all the villages. So at first glance, the shared medicinal species give a superficial observation that the Tsonga groups are the same in terms of medicinal uses. However, albeit this is partially true, but when we look at the vernacular names shared, the medicinal uses shared, we see that there are actually differences within these different medicinal systems. Each village used plants occurring in their own land, and the participants knew that not all the 372 plants that we showed them on the flip file occurred in their villages. Furthermore, they mentioned that the Tsonga people of Mhinga, Giyani, and all those other areas are not the same. So they were aware that we are not the same, even in terms of the language that they speak, and also the different cultural practices. So to them, it was, in fact, they would tell me that we are not the same. So our traditional healing systems are not the same. Anyway, let me just conclude. To my conclusion, the medicinal ethnobotany of the Tsonga cultural group of South Africa was neglected and poorly documented, with only few available publications and an unpublished thesis. Our study established 287 Tsonga medicinal species, of which 166 were already existed in literature. 132 new medicinal species, 916 uses, and 263 vernacular names are reported in the study for the first time for the Tsonga group. The research revealed that the Tsonga villages in all the different regions did not use the same plants for the same purposes. Moreover, they did not share the same vernacular names, which is not what you would expect for this, for the same culture. This was shown by the low values of the homogeneity index and the Rahman similarity index. Although the use of medicinal plants among the Tsonga villages was different, some species were regarded as truly Tsonga species, such as the sesamum species that I showed, your Adansonia digitata, Sclerocara pirea, because they consistently had large, species popularity index values. And then the large number of new records on this study gives enough reason to believe that there is a great wealth of indigenous knowledge of the Tsonga group that is yet to be uncovered. Furthermore, further studies can be conducted for the Tsonga group for one region, but consider different villages. In order for us to, to see if the same conclusions can be achieved. So this is in addition to preserving, I'm almost done. This is in addition to preserving preserving indigenous knowledge. We will, have a broader understanding of the different traditional systems in South Africa and also in Africa as a whole, because on a talk yesterday, it was mentioned that the medicinal, like medicinal use of plants in Eastern Africa, Southern Africa, and West Africa is not the same. So if at cultural level there are differences, then we need to rethink the whole African traditional medicine system. Okay, let me just acknowledge everyone. I thank Prof so much for everything, the committee and everyone for being here, my participants, of course, and thank you all. Sorry for taking your time.